Hello, Grom here. I'd like to show you how to build an AgriCraft seed maximizer using the AgriCraft integrated dynamics, integrated tunnels, and extra utilities. This build is based on the Dero 20's idea with few revisements along the way. I'm going to show you this one as a tutorial so you can build it in your own world if you so desire. Right now I'm on the Minecraft Eternal Modpack, so you should be able to rebuild it in this Modpack, but if you have the access to AgriCraft, integrated dynamics and tunnels and the extra utilities, you should be able to rebuild it in the modern versions of these mods if there are no changes along the way. Let's start with the build itself. To build this one, you'll need the access to the integrated dynamics cables, 5 player simulators, 3 block readers. The display panels are more for the convenience and troubleshooting along the way, so they are not required, but they are going to be useful for us. The variable store is going to be required. Of course, you'll need a supply of crop sticks, so the AgriCraft part of this build can work. You'll need the inventory reader from Integrated Dynamics and 4 redstone riders. You'll need 3 mechanical miners from extra utilities and 3 ender porcupines. You'll need 2 inventories. One needs to be a 1 slot only inventory, so it can be a drawer, it can be a mini chest, that's up to you. And the other one is going to store the crop sticks, so it can be a chest, but it can also be just any inventory that can hold just one type of item. So drawer it is for us. You'll need 2 item interfaces, 1 overflow inventory. I'm going to use the crate, but if you do not care about the excess seeds and essence along the way, you can just trash it. You'll need some extra utilities power, so 6 solar panels should be enough for this build. You'll need some sort of item transportation. I'm going to use the transfer nodes from extra utilities as it is a mode that we are already using, but if you have it available you can use the conduits from Ender.io, you can use the item ducts. The only requirement is that you need to be able to filter out via blacklist and via whitelist. We're going to explain it a little bit later, but for this build I'm going to be using extra utilities. And you'll need a water source to keep the farmland hydrated, or even a worm if you have the actual additions available to you. We'll start first with the build itself, how to create this monstrosity. After that we'll get into the programming. Of course you also require the variables from Integrated Dynamics, the variable cards. Let's begin. First we're going to start by placing down the worm. So we require a 1x3 farmlands. You'll need to attach it to the water source so it stays hydrated, but I'm going to use the worm. Next we're going to surround the 3x1 with logic cables. Next we'll place the player simulators on one of the three sides of this build. So from this point onward, I'm going to refer to this side as the front of the build. So that's going to be a left, that's going to be a right, and that's going to be a middle. We're going to be referencing it in our code, so to speak. Next, let's place the block readers opposite of the player simulators. Next, we'll place the mechanical miners and the ender porcupines. We'll need to dig them into the ground a little bit. And as a note, right click on this button to set all 3 of them to the redstone poles. On top of them select the ender porcupines, and we need to configure them so that they select these blocks here. I'm going to do that by checking which of these items is going to create a rectangle around the block that's targeted. So that's not the way. That's the upper and bottom, so that's not what we need. So it's going to be -2, -2, and the same for these two. You're seeing this build is still going, so that's why it's showing more. But as you can see right now, it has a grid power needing of 6. So I'm going to place the solar panels, so it is working for us. We'll need to dig in here to allow the access for the redstone riders and to pump out the items from these inventories. So we'll need to pull from these 3. Like I said, you can use any kind of item transportation, you'll just need to set it up so they pull items out of these mechanical miners at all times. Next, we'll place the redstone riders on the side of the mechanical miners and connect them with the cable. Now we'll add the variable store because it's going to be needed for the whole build to work. You can place it anywhere on this build if you want to, it just needs to be on the network. And exactly the same thing with the 2 inventories we're going to be using. So that's going to be one here and let's say one here. And we'll need to connect them. One here, and now we'll need to set them up so that one of them receives only crop sticks and the other one receives anything but crop sticks. So for one, we're going to select the whitelist crop sticks, and the other one is going to be a blacklist crop sticks, and we're going to place them in here, connect everything together. And that should be it. One thing that we'll require is another item transfer mode that is controlled by redstone. So we can pull out the items from this inventory when it is not needed into the aforementioned overflow. So it's going to be this one, and we're going to add the redstone rider to this side so we can control it with the redstone signal. The last is going to be the item interface. We'll need to set up one for the crop sticks and the other one for the rest of the system. Let's design this drawer as the crop sticks one, and we're going to leave it as that. But for the second one, we'll need to change the interface channel in here to 1, because this one is going to work to allow the placement of crop sticks. This one is going to be responsible for placement of the seed. Now, you may need to place the generator and the power source for the integrated dynamics to make it work, but you'll have to test it out for yourself. In this version, it is not required. I'm going to add the display panels for our convenience and for testing, so we know what is happening to our build. With that, we have the basic structure. And actually, I forgot that we require a inventory reader on the side here. So let's just rectify that. Because this one is going to scan the item inside and give us the information that you require. If it's a seed, if it's better, if it needs to be planted in one of these. I forgot that we are going to need the logic programmer to be able to write the information onto the variable cards. But right now, we're going to the code. Okay. As a first step, we'll want to place the crop sticks onto these slots. The easiest way to do it would be to determine whenever there is any block in these two spaces, and if there is no block, to place it. We can do it by going into the block reader and checking the has block boolean. A boolean is just true or false. In this case, there's only air block in there, so it's false. We can grab the information and we get the variable card. Now, if we want to, you can use the labeler to name them. So, for example, we can name this one left has block. And now we see that this one references if the left one has a block. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the right one. Now, this is going to allow us to check if there is any block in here, but these player simulators are going to require a true signal to plant the crop stick. Right now, if we were to provide the signal from the has block, they would receive a false one and only click if they receive a true, so if there is anything in this block. So we need to invert this signal. For that, we're going to use the option exclamation mark. That's going to be a not signal. We just need to place the variable that we've created in here to make it a negative and just call it left. No block. Place the variable card in here, and that's the opposite of this one. Same with the right one, just changing the name. And we have the left and the right. Now, if we want to, we're going to place them into the click option. Just make sure that the integer is on 0, boolean is on false on the round robin, right click is true, right hand is true, continuous click true, sneak. Actually, all of these settings do not matter to us. So we place this into the right one because it references the right one, and as you can see, these change to red. That means that they cannot get the information from the network about these two items. We need to place them in the variable block. So left one, right one, and we have our first success. Crop sticks has been planted. Remove, and they're going to get replanted. So we're in the clear. With the middle one, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. With the middle one, we will need to make some changes in the player simulator itself. So we'll need to click on the blue one, it's a boolean. We'll need to click on the plus sign and get into the sneak option and change it in here to true as a first step, and then change the item transfer rate to 2, because if it was set on just 1, it would not receive 2 items from here, because if you want to place 2 crop sticks as a cross pattern, you can click it 2 times, or you can shift right click it. If you were to shift right click with just 1 item, it's just going to place 1 crop stick, not crossed out. So you would not be able to mutate your seeds. With this one, we should be able to gather exactly the same information as before. So has block, new variable, middle has block, right inverted, middle no block, right click in here, get out, we have our variable, place it in the click, set it up in the variable store, and we have our crop stick. And it's going to replant anytime this field gets empty. Next up, we'll need to check for the information about the seeds that we have available in here. For that, we'll need to gather the information from these 2 block readers. So we'll need to get down here into the tile entity and BT information. That's going to give us the information that's on this field. If we place it in this screen, we can take a look at it that it has some information about the block itself. That is from AgriCraft, and that is an AgriCross crop 0. That means that there is nothing, that these are not crossed over like these ones. We're going to be using it later. We get some information about the item itself. Let's rename it. And let's gather the middle and the right one. So, NBT, middle block NBT, and the right one. We have our information about these 3 blocks. Next, we'll need to gather the information from these variables, the NBT data of the blocks. To test it, it will be the best if we have some kind of seeds planted in here, so we get the information about them on the screens, so we know what we are working with. So for this one, I'm going to just use pumpkin. When we place the left block NBT data in the screen, we're going to see that we have more information about this one. We have the strength, the gain, the growth. Meta is what is the stage of this crop stick, what is the growth on this one. If it's fully mature, if it's just starting. Right now it's just starting, that's why it says 0 in there. And we of course see if it's crossed over, but because we have the seed in there, it's not crossed over. It's impossible for it to be crossed over. We also have the name of the plant itself, but we do not need that. So, we'll need to gather the information about the growth, about the gain, and about the strength, the growth, and the gain. To do that, we'll need to create more variables that are, and these ones are going to have the string information in them. To make it a little bit easier on us, let's borrow one of these screens. Place it on the side. And just keep it in our peripheral vision so we know what we need to type in. So for this one, we need strength, gain, and growth. So we need this string because it holds the information about the text, because the integer is just a number and boolean is true or false. So this one is going to be agri_strength. We can of course Ctrl A, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and we have that information written down in the description. We need this one for the gain as well. And the growth. Do not make a mistake there, because that's going to stop it from working. With these 3, we can start with gathering the information. We'll need to gather this information from the left and the right side, because the middle one is going to be broken the moment we get the seed, and is going to be analyzed in the inventory. But we will need to gather another information from the middle slot, so you do not need to worry, it's going to be needed. First we'll need to get into the portable logic programmer and gather the NBT information, so we can filter out in here, so we only get the options available for the NBT variables, and we will need to look for the NBT integer. That means that we're going to get the integer value from the NBT tile entity. So for this one, I'm going to get the left strength, and let's name it left strength. And we have the left strength. If I place it in the variable store and place this one in here, it's not going to work because we need to also place the string, and right now it says that this seed has a strength of 1. So that should be true because it's freshly planted. We need to gather that information for all 3 of them, so that's just going to be on the repeat. Left gain, and left growth, and exactly the same for the right one. Just making sure that I placed in the correct ones. Right block AgriCraft, gain strength, and left growth, gain strength. Okay, so we have our 3 stats. Now we'll need to get the information added up so we have it as a singular item. To do that, we'll need to use the addition option. So, to make it a little bit easier for us to remember, I'm going to add up the gain and growth together as they start with letter G, and I'm going to name it left GG. And we have our variable, and the same one for the right one, gain growth, right, and we have our variable. The last one to add up is the strength, so left strength, left GG is going to be our left total. And the same one, right, right, right total is our right total. Now, we'll need to place all of this into our variable store, so it knows what to work with. To make it a little bit easier on myself to search for the items, I'm going to group them up a little bit so they correspond within the rows and the columns. So left strength, gain growth, right gain growth, left total, left GG, right total, right GG. And these two I'm going to actually put in here into the screens. So left total, right total. And as I note, it's never going to be less than 3. We're going to use it to our advantage. Now, let's get to the step of breaking these crop sticks when there is anything else but the crossed out ones. So if there happens to be a wheat or a seed, we want to break it and move it to the drawer. The moving part is going to be easier because it's going to be done by the transfer pipes. So we need to worry when to launch the signal to the mechanical miner. So when to launch the redstone signal through the redstone writer. For that, we're going to use the information from the crop stick itself. As you saw before, when we check the middle one NBT data, we get the information about the cross crops information. So if it says 0, then it means it's just straight sticks. If we get the 1, we get the information that these are crossed. So we can use it and check if the information in here means if we get the information that the cross crop equals 0, launch a signal. So first we'll need to again create a string. Let's put it in here. So we have the cheat sheet available and write in agree cross crop. Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, Ctrl+V, and we have the string. Now we get the information from the NBT. So it's again the integer and middle block AgriCraft crop, and we got middle cross. And if we place this back, this in here, and this one here, we can see 1 equals they are straight. Now we are going to use it and compare it if it's 0 to break it. So we need this time we need the integer 0. Let's name it 0 and make it equal. So if middle cross equals 0, you're going to send a boolean that is true or false. We don't need this one, so I'm going to place them back. This one's going to get into the corner because it needs to be in the system. But when we compare right now, it says false. If I right click it, it changes to true. Because right now it cannot place anything else, but if we clear this block, here you go, crop sticks. It managed to spread a little bit in the meanwhile, that's why I have new seeds. But right now, once again, it's false. Now we're going to place it into this redstone writer. So let me try one more time. When I right click it, it's going to get broken and replaced. Broken, replaced. Works like a charm. Now when the seeds get broken, they're going to end up in this inventory, and then they're going to get pumped out, and the crop sticks need to get in here so they can be reused. You may need to supply more crop sticks in any way you want. If you want to craft them in bulk, that's up to you. If you want to automate it, completely up to you. And this inventory is going to be used as a way to check the information in here. And actually I forgot that we require a inventory reader on the side here. So let's just rectify that. Because this one is going to scan the item inside and give us the information that you require. If it's a seed, if it's better, if it needs to be planted in one of these. The next step, we're going to read the information that we have in this inventory of the items that are inside and determine if they need to be pumped out or if the item needs, so the seed needs to be planted in one of these two slots. So for that you'll need to have one of the transfer nodes or any kind of redstone activated item transfer set up in here. So it can be a transfer node, and you'll need to invert the signal so it only runs when the item is needed, so that the transfer node is stopped. If you are using something like the conduits, then you want to have it running when the redstone signal is supplied. That's up to you, you just need to invert it if need be. For this one, we'll just need it when the item is to be used to send the redstone signal. So now we need to gather the item information from this slot. For the drawers, it's going to be slot number 1 for some reason. We'll need to get it from here, and we have the item. So let's name it. And this one is not going to show us any information about the NBT data. That's what we need. So we're going to filter by item and get NBT data. So we select this one, we name it item NBT, and we place it, and we get the equivalent of these 3 in here on this one. So we need to place this one in here, and we'll need to gather exactly the same information as these 2. So let's get to it. Like previously, we'll need to add them up. So gain and growth and strength GG gives us a total. Let's place it back inside. I'm going to move this to keep it in line. And we can also use this information in here. Granted, it's only going to show up when the seed goes in here, but for the short period of time we'll want to test it to make sure that it is working, it's going to be sufficient. Now we want to determine if the item that we've received into the drawer is good enough to be used in this system. And it's also going to determine if the item that we've received is even a seed and then move it into the other inventory. For this one, we're going to gather the left total, right total, and get the minimum function to determine which one of these is lower. So I'm going to name it planted minimum. And let's place this back in here. Now we're going to compare the planted minimum to the middle total. We'll need to compare if the middle total is higher than the left or right minimum. So for that we'll need to see the greater option, and middle total is greater than left or right. It's greater than left and all right. Place, receive, and now if this inventory gets the item with the better stats, then we're going to send a redstone signal in here. Just need to put this variable in here. And right now it's not emitting, so it's false. But if we force the system to create a new plant for us, to break it and test it, we're going to see if we get a difference. So now it's just waiting. We'll just have to wait for the growth to happen. Okay, it happened. The crop stick has been replanted. The items need to flow through, and we've received the pumpkin seeds. Now we can see that the redstone signal in here is true, so we should see on the screen that the stats are a little bit better. So we know that we want this seed to be planted in one of these two slots. If we were to, for example, receive any other item, so like even a pumpkin from these two others, we would see that the item gets pulled out and put into the storage crate because the signal is still false. With this seed, it's true. So now we'll need to compare these two and determine which one needs to be broken and replanted with the additional seed. If you were to work in the reverse, one of the options is to just select and make this less or equal than, or just invert it. That's up to you. Now we'll need to determine which one is going to be smaller, or if they are equal, which one is going to get the priority. So we need to gather the left total, right total, and right now, because we've pulled out that information, the redstone signal stopped being sent and the seed has been pulled out. That's one of the negatives if you were to have a system that requires a redstone signal to not pull the items. So just something to consider when you are troubleshooting your system. So first we'll compare these two, and as a first step I'm going to select if left one is greater than right one. And put it inside. If I were to select just the other option, the less than, then we would have the situation if they were identical that nothing would happen. So we need to make sure that one of them is greater or less, and the other one has the equal option as well. So this one was left total, right total. This one has so as well, just with additional 2 bars. So now, if we were to place them inside, now it is going to say that a right one is equal to left or is greater, and they are equal, so that's true. But if I were to take this seed that we know is a little bit higher than the other ones, we can even check it by placing it in here. You can see that it's a 4 as compared to basic ones, so 3. I'm going to break this one, it's going to get replanted. I'm going to place the seed, and it changed to true, because right now this one has 4, this one has 3, so the left one is bigger. That is correct. And now we'll want to break the blocks if the other value is true. And this one is also correct. So we'll need to add them together using the function AND. So when middle total is greater than the left and right minimum and the left is bigger, the right one, then we want to break the right blocks. I'm going to name it right break. And this one, the right break, we're going to place in the right, if we were looking from this side, breaker. So in here, redstone signal, it's going to ask for the variable because we have it in our inventory. But now we are going to take the left one is smaller or equal to the right one and use the AND option. Middle total is greater than minimum and right is bigger or equal, and name it left break. Place it inside, get the card, place it in the left breaker, and input the rest of the information into our system. Now we can replace the left and right one actually. The left one is 4, the right one is 3. And now if we want to test, it should be breaking the blocks if one of these seeds is smaller. So we can test it by taking out the 112 seed, the 4 total, replacing it with the 3 one, and placing it back into the drawer. It broke one of them, and right now it needs to replace it. So we want to be able to right click the block if it's empty, if there's nothing else to right click, because if we were to right click the one with the plants fully grown, it would just harvest it. So we want to make sure that we only click it if it's empty. We can do it simply by selecting if the block that we want to right click total equals 0, because as you can see there is no seed, the total equals 0. So we're going to take the left total and the 0 variable that we have in here and make them equal. If left total equals 0, left equals 0, then yes, and place it into here. And we need to select these two to be on channel 1 as well. So channel 1, place the left total in here, right total equals 0. Variable in, out, and in here. That's the right total, and putting down the 0, we should be able to complete the build. Provided we have this seed in the basic drawer and it wasn't pumped out, because we pulled out the information and the redstone signal wasn't sent. So let's just place it in here. I'm going to sprint to the front, and it has been planted in here. Let's water it up. Now this system should automatically, using the item conduits or anything to move the items, it should filter out the crop sticks, and any other garbage should be sorted out using the item transport with redstone signal. So we had another growth. Let's give it a few seconds. It most likely was weaker than the other ones. No, it wasn't, just took a while longer. And we have 4 and 5. One more test. And we had one growth that we didn't hear. We saw the pumpkins, and the seeds ended up in the overflow because they were 111s. So that is the complete build. Like I said, the mods that you require to do this is of course AgriCraft, integrated dynamics, the add-on integrated tunnels, and extra utilities. You can use the transfer nodes from extra utilities or any other item transportation method, and if you want to, you can replace this one with trash can on anything to get rid of the excess items. That's all the build. I'm going to create the instructions and hopefully place them in the description, though it may take a moment to compile. So for now, please use the video as an instruction. Thank you, have a nice day, bye.